All right, welcome to the podcast. This is Tweester.
This is Loki.
And today, we're going to be talking about GoGo dancing.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time at this point, since 2010, so that's my hobby.
Immediately, I want to ask the question, because I kind of think I know what GoGo dancing is, but is there like a definition or, what makes something GoGo dancing?
Well, if you were to join a forum in which there are go-go dancers all over the world, it can be anything from just being a face of a dance venue that it's almost like being a cheerleader, where if there's a DJ or a producer that's performing dance music, they'll have dancers up there that kind of help hype the crowd up. So in a sense, you feel like a cheerleader because you're trying to engage people into the music and trying to get them to feel the vibe in which you feel the vibe. But there's a whole spectrum of go-go dancing, anywhere from wearing big, elaborate outfits that actually cover your full body, and it can go anywhere down to wearing a G-string and pasties, depending on which outlet you're at. I used to think that go-go dancing was just wearing semi-provocative clothing, but then I realized after researching other dancers throughout the world that it can be anywhere from a showgirl to what you would imagine a 70s go-go dancer being in just a dress and boots, like dancing up on a pedestal somewhere, or borderline stripping. But we for sure don't hate on strippers by any means. We appreciate all art forms of the dance, but we don't identify with being strippers.
Okay.
Because we do not remove clothing.
So it sounds, to oversimplify, I guess, it sounds to me like it's like promoting something with dance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel
so
about it.
Someone's like, hey, we got this DJ coming in here, listen to his stuff, and I want you to come up with a theme, and I want you to dance to it in a way that complements his music.
Exactly. That's precisely how I feel about it. That's my niche of go-go dancing. It's really a really fun and energetic opportunity to help in an artistic level with the show, whether you're a music producer or a dancer.
Now, when you talk about go-go dancing, do you feel like it's something that's very singular, or does it feel like something that's more of a group project, something that you do together with people?
Well, there's always a leader. There's always going to be someone who manages everyone, and
So mainly in groups, you would say then?
It is groups. I rarely see a solo go-go dancer. They do exist. I've seen some of my idols are solo go-go dancers for certain DJs, but for the most part, it's a group. It's a team with a leader, but the leader always takes opinions of their teammates and the different ideas, and even being a leader, you run out of ideas. So I would say it's a team atmosphere.
Okay, so it's not like, just looking from the outside, it's not like, I can tell, where they come from, or sometimes when I would go to some clubs and I would see the go-go dancers, I had no idea if, they all got together beforehand, if they all knew each other, or if it was just, someone would go out and hire a bunch of people and be like, you show up on this date wearing stuff like this, and you show up on this date and stuff like this. But it's very much like a troupe then.
It depends on the city. How I got into it is there was already a group of go-go girls. They were the Voodoo Dolls, the first generation of them, and I saw them dancing at the Valerium, and I just idolized them. And it wasn't because of a sexiness about them. It's just they were having so much fun, and it looked like it was a sisterhood. And with that particular group, they did all know each other, and it was a sisterhood. However, by the time I actually became a go-go dancer, they had left, and there was a girl that started running it, and she had to start from scratch. And the team that I started with, none of us knew each other. She had held auditions and picked out girls from the auditions, and we all magically clicked from the get-go. And honestly, I've met some amazing dancers throughout the years, but my first team was the team that no one could really live up to, because we just bonded so hard because we didn't know each other, to be honest with you.
So it was more of like trying to recreate that magic after that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And we did it very well.
Now, do you guys have to make your own costumes, or like, are they provided, or how does that work out?
In my experience, we have always had to come up with our own costumes, and in some cases we would make them, and in other cases we scour the internet and stores and discount racks and our own wardrobes and see if there's anything cohesive that we can get on a budget. We're a smaller city, so the money allotted to the dancers here is not nearly as much as the budgets that bigger performances have, like Electric Daisy Carnival or Insomniac or any of that. And I don't actually know what happens in their case. From my understanding, the people who run those teams have networked with people who do custom costuming, and because they use them so often and they have such an outlet, that they probably get those costumes cheaper than somebody off the street would, because their name will get out there.
So it pays to be established.
It pays to be established. I have, in Knoxville, I very rarely have had a budget. It has only been in the past 4 years that I've worked with a team that actually has a costume budget on top of the budget where they pay the dancers. So in that sense, we kind of just try to get a bunch of pieces of costumes together that can be interchanged to make a dynamic look every time that we go, so we're not looking the same every show, but we're not actually having to spend more money for obtaining new pieces to our costume collection.
Okay. Do you get to keep them?
It depends. If they give us the budget, then the club owns it. If they don't give us the budget, then yes, we get to keep them, because we've put our own blood, sweat, tears, money, whatever into the costumes.
Even if they do get to own it, then it's like, all right, but the only way you'll get to use this again is if someone of the exact specifications walks up and goes, "Hey, I need an exactly that themed costume, please."
Oh, exactly. Yeah. No, that's kind of how it works. And also, because the costumes are so provocative, a go-to way of making costumes is to just grab a t-shirt and cut it up, and a lot of our costumes are extremely rigged to where, honestly, after the night that we've danced, they're probably not even wearable again.
They're just gonna fall apart.
They're just gonna fall apart because we're lucky that they stayed together.
Like hanging by
night.
a thread by the end. You're like, I guess you can keep this if you want to.
I've had plenty of nights where pieces have fallen off and there's been wardrobe malfunctions, and we're looking completely different by the end of the night than we did at the beginning of the night, whether we got hot or something fell apart, and then we all decided to continue to match and take that particular piece off of our costume altogether.
How do you deal with a live wardrobe malfunction? Can you tell me about like a time it's happened and you were like, oh shit, what do I do?
Well, okay, so the biggest one would be just an uncomfortable wedgie, or every girl fears the camel toe. Every girl fears it, and when you're go-going, you're not wearing enough clothes to really prevent the camel toe. So what you do is, you only have one side of yourself on the stage facing the audience, so you turn around and you continue to dance while you fix whichever side it is of you that's breaking.
Very clever.
However, if it's nothing major, you can eyeball one of your other girls within eye shot that's watching you and motion to switch out, and then you fix it on your break between sets.
But otherwise you can maybe, I'm just imagining you turn your back and you're doing some hand wavy stuff, and they're just she's really feeling it and vibing, but you're no, I'm fixing stuff right now.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much, I'm fixing stuff, or I'm coughing, or I'm picking my nose, or I'm sneezing, or I'm rolling my eyes because I don't really appreciate the song that the DJ has just put on for me to dance to.
Yeah,
anytime that I'm having to do something other than stage presence, I turn around to do it.
So now I'm just gonna imagine every time someone turns around, I'm just gonna be oh, they're saying excuse me while I be a human for a moment.
Exactly. I mean, but then, you've got your twerk team girls that just want to shake their ass to the audience, so you can't assume every time somebody's got their ass to you.
Twerk team? Is that an actual team's name, or is that what you guys just call them?
No, it's what I call the girls that only know how to twerk, and I've been on a few dance teams where they wanted to have like 12 different girls, and in Knoxville you just can't find talent like that. You can't have a 12-girl team that all know how to dance, and so you're gonna have girls that only know how to shake their ass. And they get a lot of attention for it, and so they think that that's great dancing, and it can be. I'm not saying, because, you know, twerk actually does take skill. Real twerking does.
It's a move.
But there were 2 particular young girls on one team, and amongst me and some other girls, we called them the twerk team.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But you know what's odd to me is that, like, I can't imagine not knowing how to dance but knowing how to twerk. Like, how do you go from 0 to twerk? Like, you didn't just, like, they didn't accidentally learn other moves in between? Or do you think they just scrapped them?
Well, the biggest thing that girls come to me and ask me if I have any pointers on how they can learn go-go, and beyond just adding them to the go-go forums so they can see other go-go dancing, because in the forums the girls post practice videos so you can see how people are moving.
Okay.
My biggest critique and my biggest question that I get is, how do I move my arms? My other sub-style of dancing is liquid, which is mainly arm-based. And so while a girl may have rhythm, she may only have it in her hips, and she has no idea what to do with her feet, or what to do with her arms, or what to do with her hands, or even what to do with her head. You dance with your whole body, and a lot of people don't understand that. And especially in the go-go world, some go-go's come in thinking that people only want to see them do sexy dancing instead of real, I hesitate to say real dancing, because I feel like any movement to music is real dance. But
some are definitely funner to watch than others,
exactly,
though.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a difference between seeing someone, like, flop around on the floor and someone do things very much on purpose.
Flopping around on the floor is my biggest pet peeve, and you wouldn't believe how often that happens, especially at battles.
Are we talking the worm here?
Not just the worm, but just, I think rolling around the floor, the audience can't see you unless you're on the front row or on the front lines of any visual platform. And while, especially like in breakdancing, you have to be on the floor a little bit, but I just think it's a cop-out to roll around on the floor, personally.
What's that move? I don't even know if it has a name for sure, but it's the move where someone's basically, like, laying on the floor on their side, and they're just kicking their legs like they're running, and it's, like, moving them in a circular motion.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's called. But
have you seen it?
I've seen that, but you would think that only being on a bird's eye angle you'd appreciate that dance move.
Yeah.
So
like,
that's why I don't like floor moves.
Yeah, if there's some guy, like, up in a tree and you're outside, like, he's really digging it. Everyone else is just kind of like, you gonna get up and dance again?
Exactly, yeah.
I would only do that if in the middle of dancing I fell, and then as I fell, I was like, well, I guess I could do this just to show them I got a sense of humor.
And I think that's why I don't appreciate the floor moves, is I do feel like it is a cop-out from falling, because I'm also a flow artist with a hoop, and when you're a dancer or when you're a flow artist, you find all kinds of ways to hide your mistakes to where the person looking at you doesn't realize you fucked up.
Okay.
But
unless
you know you fucked up.
Unless they, like, really know their stuff.
Yeah. But I think it's either a comic gesture. There are some legit dance moves on the floor, don't get me wrong. My dancer friends are going to hate me for saying that floor moves are not necessary to dance.
Let them hate. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
They can have theirs another time.
But, yeah, so I just don't think everyone can see it. I don't think people can see it from all sides. I don't think whatever illusion you're pulling off can be pulled off from a ground level when you're on the floor. And it doesn't, in my opinion, take a whole lot of talent to roll around on the floor. That being said, like I said, in breakdancing and some other styles, there's ground moves that take all the power and all the talent to pull off, but it's usually not very long that they're on the floor. It's usually a second or two, and then they come back up in a power move of some kind.
Okay, so really, I guess they're just really mainly hoping, I mean, in my opinion, just from hearing it, that the main thing you remember from that whole spiel was the power move at the end.
Exactly.
You're like, oh yeah, really got me going at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like when you see a movie, and the movie can be, like, really slow and shitty throughout, but then the end last 10 or 15 minutes is badass, and they're hoping you just take away the last 15 minutes and go, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
like,
But don't get me wrong, I consider what I'm talking about is when your whole body's on the ground. Like, I don't consider windmills where your back's on the ground but your legs are in the air.
This is news to me.
I don't consider that
Back on the
moves that I'm
ground,
talking
legs
about.
in the air, huh?
Yeah, a windmill is when your back is on the ground and it's that breakdance move where you're spinning and you're using the momentum of your legs in the air. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, this is a podcast, so you can't see what my hands are doing to show.
No, it's you've seen it in a commercial, so like now that you said it,
Yeah.
If you have seen anything from the 90s ever, you've seen this.
Exactly.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah. Actually, it almost seemed like for a while, anytime someone wanted to showcase any sort of breakdancing, they would always show that. Yeah, it's always that.
It's one of the foundational moves of breakdancing, and it's actually a really hard move to do cleanly and for a long time. I actually see my breakdance friends post, I accomplished 20 windmills in this practice video, and it's like that's their next goal is going to be 25 windmills before they lose the momentum, because breakdancing is all based on momentum and strength. So
when I see it, I'm just like, glad they didn't break their neck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it makes my neck hurt a little just watching it.
Yeah. It is really difficult to watch. I don't know how they survive life. They injure themselves constantly.
So going back to talking about like running with a troupe of go-go dancers, do they find you? Do you find them? How does that usually happen?
It's a balance of both. When you have an established team, you're gonna have fan girls, and I don't want that to be a negative term, because it's actually a cool term, but you're going to have girls that see you doing what you're doing, and they have a love for dance themselves, and they aren't stage shy, so they're going to approach a bouncer, or they'll approach you, and they'll say, hey, how do I join this? And at that point you tell them, well, you're either looking at the moment and you say, hey, come do an audition with me, or you let them know, like, find us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, follow us, continue to have a relationship with us, and when we're hiring, you'll be the first person to know we're having auditions. But Knoxville, like I said, the talent pool is it's such a roller coaster. There's some years where there's just an influx of girls interested, and then some years it's pulling teeth to find anyone that can join you for the night. Just because go-going is dying out in the smaller towns. It's mainly a big city thing at this point. It had its boom about 8 years ago to 15 years ago.
So feast or famine.
It's feast or famine, and when I'm searching, I pretty much just post on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for a girl, and if the people I know someone, they'll refer them. And I've managed to staff every night that I need to staff, but I have had nights where I've had girls that aren't comfortable, or they get tired, or they wear the wrong shoes, and I've learned to prepare them about what to wear and what to expect if they've never danced before.
Have you had anyone quit on you first day because it was a lot harder than they realized?
Oh yeah, especially on my first group. We would have girls show up and then leave halfway through the night because they just couldn't handle the stamina, or they wore the wrong shoes and their feet just quit on them.
So they're like, this looked really cool when I was watching it, but now that I'm up here, I am so tired.
Yeah. That's pretty much what happens. I mean, and it's not a tired that you can recover from easily. It's the heat, and if you drink it all, that's going to bring you down. If you're not well hydrated, that's going to bring you down. If you try to take harder drugs, that'll kill your night if they're not the right ones. And on my particular team, I tried not to have them around, but it's just one of those things. It's a stigma in the club. Like, it's really hard to find people that aren't wanting to be intoxicated on something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, every workplace kind of has their stereotypes, and somewhere those stereotypes have a grounding in statistics. Like, there's a reason why they became stereotypes. Not all stereotypes have a grounding, but some do. Like, I know that there's a huge thing about the restaurant industry that waiters and waitresses, especially on nights where they make a killing, go out and find their drug dealer. Like, they say, if you can find a server that isn't high, you've hit the Holy Grail.
Right.
Obviously, that's an exaggeration, and a lot of them, I'm not going to demonize weed here. There's plenty of people that smoke weed and then go do their shift, and it's not like they can't do their job or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those stereotypes that, like, when you start to, like, meet people, you go, oh, that's kind of true.
And I'm also not a hard ass. I tell girls up front that I don't want them to be intoxicated, but I'm really hard about coming down on them when I find out that they are getting intoxicated. And at that point, I just end up trying to become that friend that tells you things you don't want to hear, like, you know, the reason that you're back here throwing up isn't because you've overheated, it's because of what you're putting up your nose, you know, or something to that extent.
And it sounds like at that point, especially since, you know, you talk about the dancing and how hard it is, that it's more of a safety thing. You're like, listen, I don't care what you do, but if you do it here, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, and I don't need you ODing or crashing out or even distributing anything back here, because that could hurt the club.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've never put my foot down about weed. I don't think weed hurts anything. The smell definitely can radiate out into the parts of the club you don't want it to radiate out into.
Yeah.
But, you know, you learn that the hard way.
Maybe you get some cotton mouth, get some water, you'll be all right.
Yeah. I mean, you might be moving slower, but as long as you're on beat, I don't care at what speed you're moving.
We'll just call it an artistic choice.
Yeah. So, but, you know, if you're going to have drinks, limit it to, like, my limit's 2 drinks, 3 if it's a longer night. But don't get wasted, you know, just don't get sloppy, and, you know, you don't get to a point where your makeup's just like melting off your face and you don't know, you're not aware of it, and you're like stepping over your own feet. And,
it's not,
you know, you try to squat down and fall over, or you fall through a screen, you know, you don't want to do that stuff.
That might only be okay on Halloween, because they're like, this is a part of the show.
Exactly.
They're so good. Like, it evolves as you watch.
See her get possessed.
Watch. Oh my God. This show is so transcending.
Yeah.
Going back to the costumes, do you have a favorite so far, or just one that really sticks out? Like, I can tell you one of the ones that I thought that was the coolest from seeing your costumes is I easily always remember the one from A Clockwork Orange that you guys did.
Oh yeah,
those are fantastic.
You liked that?
Yeah,
you think we pulled it off all right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I want one. I was like, I want to be a Clockwork Orange and go to a club.
Milk drinking psychotic go-go dancers.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll bring a gallon of milk.
Right. No, that was a funny one, because only 2 of the girls even had heard of that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
they're
God.
like, what is this costume you're sticking us in, and why are we putting this eyelash under one eye? Like,
did they like it though?
They liked the costume. I don't know if they ever went and watched the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But they dug the costume. They're like, okay, you had something.
Yeah.
Here.
No, we got a lot of compliments on it, and it was a really successful night. And that was actually my friend Gabby's idea. I've always kind of wanted to do it, but I'm older. I call myself Grandma Go-Go. I'm in my 30s, and like the other girls I dance with are usually 25 and younger. And so I just always assumed that they probably didn't even know what the movie was, and I didn't know if I could pull it off, because I've honestly haven't not watched it since I was a teenager. So I have this whole, we lived in a world in my age where if you were you dressed as something you weren't, you were called a poser, and I was like, I don't want to be a poser, but it is a badass costume, and it was one of my favorites. But my all-time favorite, my friend James Scott Wilkerson wanted us to dance for one of his shows, and it was called Future as Fuck. And I wanted a kind of like spacey, not modern, but futuristic looking costume. And this was a last minute thing, and I didn't really have a costume budget, but I went to the sex shop off Lovell Road. I forget what it's called, but it's an adult bookstore right next to Harley Davidson. And I was looking through their lingerie, and they had a disco ball corset, and they only had 2. And if you know anything about corsets, they're usually very rigid, and they completely hold in any fat in your body and shapes it into an hourglass figure, and you can't move in them and you can't breathe in them, especially if you tie them how you're supposed to tie, because there's like a string lace throughout the back, and you pull it as hard as you can to like make yourself look skinny and your boobs bigger and things like that. But these particular corsets were the most flexible, breathable, but still accomplish their goal of what a corset was supposed to do.
It's like a corset for the modern woman.
Yeah, and it reflected light. Like, it was silver, and it reflected light, and you looked like a walking disco ball. And even though they were $50, I walked by that rack 6 different times talking myself out of those corsets. And then I was like, I have to get them.
We got to.
I have to. And I even managed to get a discount on them because I noticed some of the little disco ball flakes were falling off. And I had another costume similar to that with the same squares, but they were more iridescent than silver. But one or two iridescent ones weren't going to stand out amongst the silvers. So I knew that I could glue squares from one costume on that one to complete it, so it didn't look like it was falling apart.
I'm guessing they'd be more willing to work with you, knowing you wanted to buy like a few of them anyways, right?
Yeah, and then you kind of get inspiration from other costumes. So to complete that costume, we got a white bob wig, because in the future women all have white bob hair.
Yeah, I've seen movies,
right? And then I stole an idea from a couple girls that I think they were dancing possibly for Skrillex, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know it was one of the Midnight Voyage shows before I came on to Midnight Voyage. And they had found this mesh rhinestone ribbon. And it doesn't look like it'd be something you could see through, but if you cut it and you glued it to glasses, it would look like rectangular rhinestone goggles that completely cover your eyes, but you could actually see through it because it was mesh. Like once it was right up against your eyes, you could see through it. So it was kind of cool looking, and it added to that. And that was probably one of my favorite costumes. I just felt, for the first time, I felt like it was a costume that didn't look like it was rigged, and it was a full-fledged costume. So.
Okay. So that would be like, if you had to pick a favorite, that's it.
That's one of them. My Moulin Rouge night for my birthday on my first team was probably my other favorite.
Moulin Rouge?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So we all made our own bustles. A bustle is a fluffy, it can be feathers or fabric, but it makes your butt fluffy and it like hangs down like
you wear around the waist,
like a peacock thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You kind of look like you have a big fancy peacock tail of fabric and feathers and glitter and all kinds of stuff.
Like could be seen from like old school showgirls and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, that was my birthday with the Voodoo Dolls the year that I was with them, and we had a blast that night, and every girl made their own outfit instead of us being together, and we all just killed it, and it was amazing.
I like it. Now, you can't do this sort of thing, wear these awesome costumes, dance super cool in a club full of drunk people and people on drugs without getting hit on a few times, I'm guessing.
A few? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me about like some of the experience with that, and like what your go-tos are for dealing with that, or how other people have dealt with it, or any stories there?
I do have stories. Excuse me. I do have stories. However, I've magically always carried myself in a way that doesn't attract that attention. But my stories that I do have are very forward. I came backstage one night and found somebody that I thought, well, they're a friend now, but I thought they were a friend then. And my fiance, I've been with him for 8 years, and he's a dancer as well. So anyone in the actual club that I dance in that knows me should know that I have a very serious relationship. Mm-hmm. But this person that knew us came around the corner. I believe it was New Year's Eve one night when Chris wasn't able to make it, and I believe he may have been really intoxicated. However, he cornered me and pinned me against the wall and tried to kiss me and told me how beautiful I was. And even when I tried to say no, he was like, just come on. And finally I was like, I can't. Like, I'm dating my boyfriend. And he finally backed down. But when he backed down, he goes, don't tell anybody about this.
What? Yeah, also...
And my dumb ass didn't. And then when my boyfriend finally found out, I got in a lot of trouble for not telling him.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized I need to tell my boyfriend everything and not worry about my relationships with people who aren't my boyfriend.
To just be like, that was super shitty, but also, could you do me a favor? Like, right away? Come on.
Well, I'm very forgiving. I'm aware that when people get too drunk, or they're rolling too hard, or they're tripping too hard, that they're going to become someone they are not normally.
Yeah.
I'm forgiving about that. I'm very forgiving about that. And so I didn't want club drama. I didn't want hatred or jealousy or anything going on. And so that's kind of like, because I didn't do anything wrong, that's kind of why I kept it quiet. Like, I think he had made a mistake, and I didn't want any animosity between anybody, but it ended up being worse because the information came out later. And but now it's all gone. It's actually all gone now. Like, you grow past things and you realize what's important in life. But another one, I don't even know if I was being hit on, But there was one night, and my generation, you know, I graduated high school in 2002. My generation was the tail end of the punk scene, and I obtained a lot of bondage gear. Not gear. I don't want to say gear. Bondage accessories.
I don't know. Sounds a lot like gear to me.
Well, yeah, it was a collar. This one particular item was a collar, and it had 3 O-rings on it. And unless you're into that kind of thing, I wouldn't look at it and think bondage. It just looks more like just a punky accessory.
It's like something you'd wear to a show, maybe.
Yeah, and I wore that as an accessory one night, and this younger guy, I don't even think he was 21 yet, approached me and choked me before he even said hello. Because he would think that I would like that kind of thing. He's like, oh, you're into bondage. You like that shit, don't you? And I was like, actually, and I forced his hand away from me and I said, no, this is just an accessory. Oh, no, I know you like it. And he tried to grab for my throat again. And like I said, I'm a very forgiving person, but I was really close to going to get a bouncer to kick his ass out. But finally, he left me alone. But that was probably the most shaken I had ever been about being hit on at a club, was somebody forcefully putting their hands on me in a highly inappropriate way. I mean, it wasn't even just grabbing my ass. It was choking me. That's an aggression, you know? And
I think now's a good time for a PSA to let people know that if you watch porn, that's not real life.
No.
Like, that's just as fictional as movies. You still got to communicate with people. You can't just walk up and, like, as a pizza guy, whip your dick out, and then they'll be like, well, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Like, no, you can't go around just choking people and doing shit like that. Just ask them if you're into, if they're into stuff.
Consent.
You know, like, I'm pretty sure bondage people like consent too. So
I'm pretty sure even if I was 100% into bondage, I don't want some fucking stranger walking up to me and putting his hands on me without consent.
Yeah.
You know, like, and he's not going to know my safe word. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? It's like, we just met, bro. Like, let's talk first.
Yeah. Well, okay. So those are two pretty, actually, you weren't kidding. Those are two really straightforward ones. Like, none of them had to do with, like, hey, can I buy you a drink? Like, it's all just run right up.
Yeah. I get a lot of people that just want to tell me how beautiful I am, how great the costumes are. They want to compliment all my other girls. But honestly, I get hit on as it almost makes me feel like a fucking madam or something. They're like, is your other girl single? Like, they want to ask me the statuses of my other girls.
Like, you're the gatekeeper?
Yeah, like I'm the gatekeeper of them. And I'm like, you know what? You've got lips and a tongue and vocal cords and legs. Why don't you walk your happy ass right on over to them and ask them yourself? Because they're going to appreciate that more than me being like, hey, do you like so-and-so? Because he had the hots for you the other night.
Yeah.
You know? Like, he was asking about you. Like, no girl's turned on by that. Guys, just go to the girl that you're attracted to and tell them.
Like, oh my God, did he send you over here to tell me
that?
that?
But in a consensual way.
Tell him to do me right now. Go tell him. Be my middle person and tell him to do me.
Yeah, this isn't middle school.
It's never happened.
I'll do that for a few friends, and if you're listening to this, you know which friend you are. I'll do that for a couple of you because I love you to death. But for the most part, I am not your matchmaker. You need to be doing that yourself. But like I said, I've had that boundary of everyone knowing that Chris is my boyfriend for over 8 years. So I think I've had a cushion, fortunately, but I also have been told my whole life that I carry myself in a way that I don't seem like a bitch, but I don't seem like I'm going to be accepting of that kind of attention.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it.
So
have you had, like, any issues where, like, one of your girls came to you and they were like, I've tried everything I can, this person will not leave me alone, like, can you deal with it? Have you ever had to, like, also be the bouncer before?
No, because I've got a couple bouncers that always have our backs anyways. One of them's been a friend of mine since my first job I ever had back in 2002. And another one is my future sister-in-law. Like, I make really good friends with the right people at the venues that I work. And even when I worked at Southbound, which is probably the biggest meat market I've ever worked at, no offense to Southbound, but that's just the kind of people that they draw in. I had an Italian bouncer that wasn't even an official bouncer that was on my side of the club next to my box, and he wouldn't have any bad attention towards me. And he treated it in a very Italian fashion. Like, I felt like the mafia was watching out for me.
Very nice. I'd feel comfortable.
He had the accent and everything. So
I wish I had my own mafia.
Right?
Now, I've seen sometimes where you guys get like props that you get to like dance on and stuff. Like, you're talking like platforms, if you get like cages and stuff. How do you feel about that sort of thing? Do you feel more comfortable away from it, or do you appreciate the new addition, or?
It really depends. I've been on a couple different platforms. My favorite were the cages at Valerium, but that's because those were sturdy. They had an actual, what do you call not balcony. It's not a balcony, but it had railing. Railing is the word.
Railing on it, okay.
And it had railing around it except for the entrance to it. And even then, it was railed all the way around. There was just a couple of the support beams missing so you could crawl into the cage. I loved that because when your legs start getting tired, you can hold on to the railing and still do leg movements, but support yourself more with your arms and your legs.
Very sneaky. But again, it looks like an artistic choice. You're like, oof, I'm getting tired up here.
Yeah. But other than that, I've been on a pentagon platform with no railing, and I felt like I had to look down constantly because I was going to fall off. I wasn't able, because there was no railing, I was not able, while I was getting lost in my dance, to figure out where the edges of that platform was. And that was during a time where people were trying to get me to wear heels while I was dancing. Yeah.
Ugh.
Can't do dancing in heels. That's why I never made it big. That's why I never even tried to audition to be a pro go-go dancer. Heels are my enemy. And but then at Southbound, I don't know if you've ever been there, but
I've been to the meat market.
They, on either side of the DJ booth, are these, God, I would say they were 4x4, maybe 5x5, but I would say 4x4 wooden platforms that had a TV behind them, so they weren't even flush with the wall. Like, if I wanted to lean back, I'd be hitting my back on a TV.
So no one was thinking safety with this.
On my particular box, we called them boxes, but they were platforms. On my particular box was a smoke machine, so within my 4x4 grid, I had like a 1x1 thing that I had to, look out for, and honestly, I got used to that. The first couple times I was up there, I'm like, I'm gonna fall to my death, because those, I would say they were 4.5 to 5 feet off the ground. So I was up above everybody, and people would, try to put their drinks on it, and I would just kick their drinks on the floor.
Yeah,
or I'd
get this shit out of here. What do you think this is?
Yeah. I'm like, or they'd spill their drinks on it. Like, that's safe. Well, don't mind me. I'm just trying to dance up here. But those were probably my least favorite, beyond a festival, quote unquote, that I went to. That they said they had platforms for us, and when I got there, they were plastic fold-out tables.
Jesus.
And I was like, no, we're not dancing on those, because those are going to break the second we stand on them, because it wasn't even level ground. So even if we had the 4 legs of the table and the table was strong enough to hold our weight, it would wobble.
Just no planning whatsoever.
No planning whatsoever. We were dancing for free, and they wanted us there, and then they acted like they didn't want us there. So
yeah, we're like, oh, we were hoping that not only would you dance for free as a favor to us, but that you would also provide everything that you need. Your own costumes, you'd provide all the people that you need, and maybe something to dance on too. That'd be nice. You know what, could you bring some music? We actually forgot to bring music. Oh, and some snacks, please.
They finally moved the DJ table back from the wooden stage so that we could dance in front of the DJ table on the stage, and that ended up working out really well. And overall, that weekend was actually a pretty phenomenal weekend, and it will always be in my memories, and I appreciate the experience. But when I first got there, my heart just sank. It just sank.
Could you give, so if someone wanted to start out in the go-go scene, like they just wanted to dip their toe in, just kind of see what it's like, what are some tips that you would give them, not only in like just getting started as far as like maybe finding a place to go do it, but also like maybe some rookie mistakes to not make right away?
Again, that's kind of a hard question to answer, because my experience has only been in Knoxville, and I know that every city has a different expectation of what
just,
they want.
Just like general stuff, you know?
I would try to just dance at home for 15 minutes straight and see if you get tired. But I mean, really dance. Like, don't just wiggle around or like sway your hips around. Like, really try to see if you have that stamina. Really research what the girls giving the auditions want, and if they want heels, practice in heels. If they want flats, practice in flats. Make sure that as far as getting started, I don't know.
Well, moving past like just trying to find a job, once you got the job, once you're out there dancing, what are some little things that you could do to make it easier on yourself, or some things that you just shouldn't forget about?
The mistakes that people make is that they forget they're on stage, and so they're not taking up a whole lot of space. You don't have to be a phenomenal dancer to really be successful in go-go. It helps by miles, of course, but that being said, as long as you have a stage presence, that means taking up space on the stage, moving around in the stage, that helps a whole lot, because some girls will stay in their one spot and they won't twirl and they won't use their arms, and so they're just like a body up there and they're not projecting energy. But another one is a lot of girls don't smile and a lot of girls look down, and when you're on stage, that makes you look bad. It makes you... Some girls think that they look like, if I'm not smiling and I have my eyes closed, I'm just going to look like this amazing person lost in the music. But really, you look like you have your resting bitch face on and you're looking down, so you've got a double chin no matter how skinny you are. And the circles under your eyes are so much more accented when you're looking down than when you're looking out. And the best piece of advice I ever got was actually from a Vogue dancer, a Vogue street dancer. And he said to always look above the crowd. Don't ever look at the crowd. Always don't look into the lights, but find where the lights are hanging and look more towards the ceiling, because that's going to force your face to project outwards and to give you the confidence.
Okay, I see that.
And I don't always smile myself. There are nights that are absolute hell to get through because of the music selection or the DJ I have to perform for. But I always try to find a way to clown around a little bit, because it doesn't always have to be so serious. Like, if I'm really bored, I will just start clowning around on stage. I will like start playing with my suspenders if I'm wearing suspenders and trying to be goofy, or I'll try to find a prop to play around with. But I try to force a smile as much as I can, but even me to this day, it's hard for me to smile all the way through. But my advice is, if you can, smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, too, is that like I've seen a lot of pictures, and so that's the other thing to remember. Like, however someone thinks that they look, you can really tell when you got a photographer up there. It's like, oh yeah, let me get you a few cool snapshots of like this dance and like the DJ and everything. And then you see a couple people that look like they're smiling and like they're having fun and they're playing around. Makes for a great picture, right?
Yeah.
And like it just shows good presence. And then I've seen a couple where like way in the background, they kind of try to blur them out a little bit. They weren't in focus.
Yeah.
But I could see them. They were taking themselves way too seriously and just like not playing to anything at all.
Yeah.
And they really do just fall into the background. And since we said earlier that it's supposed to be amping up the crowd, it's not really going to amp anyone up.
And also, if you're someone who's afraid of the stage, while you are stage front and it seems like the whole crowd might be watching you, to be honest, think back to when you've gone to the club. How often do you watch the dancer? Maybe for a minute, and then you go back to hanging out with your friends or getting lost in the music yourself. Like, not all eyes are on you
At all times.
At all times, by any means. The only people that might be watching you crazy are like the front row, possibly, but they're probably going to be watching the DJ more. When I first started dancing, no one watched the DJ. No one. But since like the dubstep boom,
Yeah.
like, I almost think Go-Go's dying because the DJs were getting mad that the Go-Go's were getting attention off of them. Like, that's part of it. Another part is a lot of them are very unprofessional and they don't watch out for the wires, and so they'll trip over a wire and unplug all the music unplug a light, or they're just there to try to network with the DJs, or I don't want, I'd go as far as say there might be some that are roadies, like,
Yeah.
They're there for the fame. I personally, the only DJs I track down to try to meet are literally the local ones, like people that I've known my whole life, and I just want to go say hi, you know?
Yeah. The big ones would probably get tired of people, like, running them down every single show.
And the ones that aren't tired of it, you probably don't want to be around those guys.
Yeah, they're like...
They're the ones that are drugging you up in the room.
Come back to the room. I got a shit ton of drugs.
Exactly.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Wow, this guy's just super nice and, like, really loves giving everyone his drugs.
Yeah, you're not going to be a special person to them.
No.
You know, you're going to be just another girl on the road that makes them not feel lonely for a night. So,
which, if that's what you're looking for, you hit the jackpot.
Yeah, not hating on people that wanted just the hookup culture at all. I'm not hating on that at all.
Yeah, just manage your expectations, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get heartbroken when you're kicked off the tour bus in the morning, you know? Like,
what do you mean I gotta leave? I thought we were starting our life together. What?
Yeah, so I've met a couple of my idols, though.
You showed up sweaty, you took all of my drugs, we had some sloppy sex, and, we're done now in the morning. Like, what part of this made you think we're starting a life together?
There are two that I've tracked down, though. I tracked down Crystal Method, because who wouldn't?
Crystal, that's pretty cool.
Who wouldn't? Like, I was told that they had never had dancers before.
Really?
Yeah. They didn't request us. We were just in-house dancers for the club that they were performing. And that night, two of my girls were getting sick. I won't say why. But
I will assume.
Yeah, they were getting sick. And so I was pretty much down to me. And that's when I just was auditioning Gabby. So I was down to me and the person I was auditioning. So I had no idea what her stamina was like, or how far she can go, or how hard she can dance. And like I said, I'm older. I appreciate Crystal Method. The other girls there had no idea who they even were. And I was just like, this is my bucket list.
Man, this
is a bucket list show for me. And you guys are like,
Did you show them a couple songs maybe? Like, listen to this awesomeness.
I didn't have a chance to. I think I did send a couple songs in our thread, but I was more focused on if they were even going to be there and what we were wearing.
The important stuff.
Yeah, the managing stuff. And it just, I don't think that's their style either. But, however, most of the time when I dance, I try not to keep a dead stage. I try to keep girls in full rotation. And I learned that the older I'm getting, the more I just can't do that. So I do have dead stage sometimes in my group performances. However, I took a time and I took Gabby backstage to check on the other two girls because I could see them tanking, and they were both throwing up in the dressing room. And so I was back there trying to talk them through it to see, like, I was trying to gauge whether they were going to be able to overcome this in about 30 minutes and be able to join us back, like, once they cooled off and got some water, or if they were out for the rest of the night, so I could plan accordingly. And while I was back there, another friend of mine peeked their head back, and they're like, Crystal Method's wondering where you guys are. They loved that you guys were out there. And I was like, I'm going back out there. See you guys later.
Yeah,
like,
you can stay here.
Yeah. I was like, Gabby, you got this? She's like, I got this. And she hung with me all night long. So that's why I hired Gabby. She, on her first night dancing with me ever, did the hardest, longest set she's probably done in her whole career.
With Crystal Method. Who requested you back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the other one was Stanton Warriors and DJ Icy. I tracked them down and fangirled with them a little bit. But I wasn't like roadie fangirl hitting on, but I was just like, I grew up with you guys and I love it.
Just want to tell you guys that you're great and I love everything you do.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, can I hug you?
Like I
made my own Stanton Warriors tattoo because I won't go get a real tattoo. Do you like it? Because Stanton Warriors is all about their tattoos.
They are?
Yeah, if you have a Stanton Warriors tattoo, you get into every show of theirs for free.
What?
Yeah.
That's also like free advertising for life, so that's very, very clever.
And they have a cool logo. I'm not, I don't know if you've ever seen the Stanton Warriors logo.
I haven't.
But yeah, it's a really cool logo, so... It's like a W, but it's a really, like, graffiti-looking W.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think of that, but, like, that's totally a perk, getting to meet some of the musicians and DJs and stuff.
Yeah.
That leads... Actually, there was something I was wondering about. Are there male go-go dancers?
Yes.
And do they ever get some notoriety, or is it kind of like if a guy showed up to, like, work at Hooters? They'd be like, you can't be here.
In the modern day... You're gonna have your gay go-go dancers at gay clubs, and they're not gonna get the same notoriety at an EDM club that I perform at, especially in the South. Like I unless it's like Florida or something, but I don't see a lot of male go-go dancers here.
We'll never go to Florida.
However,
and I will never live in Florida.
Florida hater over here.
It was something from a previous episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will never live in Florida.
ever.
We will never go there. So no, don't worry about Florida at all.
However, when I first started going to clubs back in 2002, when like house music and breakbeat and techno were all a lot more popular than they are today. Techno's making a comeback.
You think so?
In house music, yeah. But the clubs I grew up in, there were male go-go dancers, and they were not gay, and they were not dressed like, they weren't in like G-strings or anything like that. They, wore baggy pants and a t-shirt, and they would just get up in the pedestals provided for go-go dancers and just, kill it. And I'm still friends with one of the Knoxville male go-go dancers. And Chris, my fiance, actually used to kind of want to be one as well. But yeah, there are male go-go dancers. I have a friend named Rosbot, and he works with the Glam Dolls. And sometimes they have him go shirtless, but for the most part, he's in just some kind of costume, whether it's a robot or a genie or an alien or something. He's dressed up to fit their theme. Mm-hmm. And he has brought a feminine aspect into his dance from time to time, but he's called Rosbot because his main style is a robot. And he's pretty versatile in his dance styles, and he kills it. Like, I'm jealous that a guy just stepped in and took my dreams over. Like, I was like, damn it, why didn't I apply for Glam Dolls?
Is there ever such thing as like couples go-go? And I don't mean like literally like they're dating, but just like where they'll have like a male and a female, and like they work off each other, and like you see like doubles up places, or female and female, male, like do they have like doubles ever with go-go dancing? Is that something you see ever?
I haven't seen that. No, I haven't. I've seen that in the flow arts community, where they'll do like doubles hooping, and there'll be one person doing like higher hoop moves while somebody's below them doing lower hoop moves.
The hula hoop dancing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more off the body tricks when you bring in two people to do it. But yeah, there's more optical illusions to be had in the flow art community as far as performances go. And I've seen Rosbot jive with, I don't know if it was another guy or another girl, I don't recall at this time, but he did a duet with somebody, but they weren't dancing together necessarily. I think they were just vibing off each other, and adding an illusion to each other, but they weren't like touching each other. It's
like not something that like maybe they had worked on together. It's just something that like at the time they're like, hey, this works.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think that's something that could be done? Like people like kind of working together, so you get like, say maybe on a stage on the right side and the left side you have two people, they're both dancing together. Is that something sustainable, or am I just crazy?
I mean, I've had a partner as far as two girls on one side stage and two girls on the other, but we weren't by any means doing any kind of choreography or even necessarily dancing with each other. We were just sharing space while we did our own dancing and possibly vibing off each other, like, making eye contact and stuff. And I'll do that with a girl across the entire part of the stage. If it's just me and one other girl and we're splitting the stage, like, we'll try to make eye contact and like vibe off each other. But I personally can't do choreography, and I feel like when you do any kind of couples dance, there's a level of choreography needed, whether it's just something you figured out on the spot right before you go out or something you work on for a long time. But I've never felt like I was paid enough to bother with choreography.
Right.
Because that takes practice.
I could see that. You probably would need some. The other thing too is that when you were telling me earlier about sometimes you need someone to like cover you. Well, if the other person is integral in a part of your dance, then like they're like, how am I supposed to cover you? You're supposed to be out here with me.
Yeah, exactly. No.
So I guess that does kind of take away your person that you can tag in if you did that.
Yeah, I've just always been really selfish with it. My appeal and my draw was, I thought the girls looked beautiful, but my main appeal is, before I even became a go-go dancer, I was always trying to figure out a way to get on stage, and it wasn't because I wanted the attention, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, I want to be a star. The dance floor was just so fucking packed out that I needed room, and I needed to breathe, and I needed my own air.
You're like, if I'm a go-go dancer,
and if I'm a go-go dancer,
I get my own part of the club.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very clever of you.
It worked
That's how it all
out.
started. You're
Pretty
like,
much.
God damn it, I just want to come here and dance, and all these people
Yeah.
all these fucking normies are in my way, like elbowing me.
Well, there's something that happens in the street culture called a dance cipher or a dance circle. And what it is when the street dancers come in and they're on the dance floor, one person, they're so talented that they're not all going to be dancing at the same time. There's going to be one person that starts dancing, and then the rest of the dancers form a circle that blocks off the rest of the club from that one dancer. And it's called a cipher or a circle. And they perform for half of a song, if not a full song. And then when they get tired, they leave the circle, and then another dancer comes out and does their thing in the circle. But when I first started clubbing, I wasn't talented enough to butt my way into that circle, and I'd get pissed off, and I'd like be trying to push them back in on each other. Chris was one of them. My fiance to this day was somebody I hated at the club when I first started going out, because the club was so small, and I just wanted my own space because I just wanted to move freely. I didn't want to be razzle and dazzle people, but I just wanted to move freely, and I couldn't because everyone was standing on the dance floor watching one person dance, and that pissed me off so bad. So I just started getting on stage to dance.
Yeah, you're like, I will subvert this.
Yes.
Like, I can beat you.
I can get around this.
And then you did.
Yeah.
That is actually a better reason for starting to go-go dance than I could have ever hoped to hear in my life. That's gonna be my favorite reason. No matter what else anyone tells me, if they're like, how to get money for grandma's surgery or anything, I won't give a shit. I'm like, no. The best one is someone just wanted some space.
Yeah, I just wanted to breathe. I wanted some air. And the Voodoo Dolls, the first troupe that I got on, there's another appeal there. The cages they danced in. My bouncer friend that I said that I'd been friends with since 2002, he provided these industrial strength fans that he would. What are those plastic things that tie stuff together?
Zip ties?
Zip ties, yeah.
Yeah,
really bad with words.
Part of the name.
Yeah. I know, tie is
if you would have been like, they tie things together, they zip up a little. I can't remember. Fuck it.
Yeah. No, he would use zip ties and tie these fans to those cages, and so you'd get in there and your hair would blow straight up, but it felt so good. And it actually looked really cool while you were dancing to have your just hair like going everywhere.
Probably made some good photographs.
It did. It made some cool photographs. So.
I dig it.
I'll have to submit some photographs to you to share on the.
I mean, I'll need some to go along with like the stories now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just for my own curiosity, I'll be like, oh shit, that's what you were talking about here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we actually ran the time down, so.
Did we?
We did.
Oh, okay.
I can't believe it, right?
Yeah.
I know, it always happens like that. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been Tweester.
And this is Loki.
And we will catch you guys next time.
I love you all.